You want to do the pledge? Just
Okay, let us do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Liberty and justice for all.
liberty.
Nice job out there, TV land. Playing ball. Good.
Okay, so next we have the public input statement. We don't have any audience. Do we need to do it? Or should we just do it?
No, we don't need to.
So you're off the hook there, Rebecca.
Okay.
And we don't have any public input. Minutes of March 3rd. So I have to go find.
How'd we do, Stephanie?
What's that?
How'd we do on the minutes?
Good. There was one thing, Nancy, at the end of the meeting when we did the vote, I thought she said somebody over remote had raised their hand last minute, so I wasn't sure if it was just Rebecca listed there opposing the optional masking. I thought Nancy said that somebody else online remotely had done it. Check with Nancy.
Yeah, I thought I heard her say 7 to 2 also.
7 to 2 or 8 to 1?
I thought it was I thought it was only Rebecca, but did I miss somebody? Because it's possible.
I thought it might have been Kate, but Nancy saw. I don't.
No, I voted.
Yeah, I think there was a little
I
bit,
think it was just.
I think it was Rebecca.
Yeah.
So I think we're good.
Okay, then no notes and good job.
Yay! Thank you, that feels good.
All right, have a motion to accept that, nobody?
Motion to accept the
I'll make a motion to. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Yes.
So how much everybody?
So 8,
Yes.
so 8.
All 8.
Yeah, so everybody's here, so it passes. Okay,
All right, so we have a student report, though she's not here.
okay.
She's not feeling well, so
Okay.
she typed something up. So this is from Hyla, who says that since the mask mandates have been lifted, I've seen a boost in morale from students, teachers, and supporting staff. It's incredible to see everyone smile again and to feel truly connected to each other. My hope is that we can remain unmasked while also staying safe. Also, prom has officially been declared as May 7th. There was a meeting today after school, but I unfortunately couldn't attend, but plan to reach out to Ms. Playstead to get more details. So that's her update.
All right. Then we have a couple of donations.
We do. Let me see. We have donations from Atlantic Federal Credit Union for $2,000 to the Access Program, which is a new program for us this year. Jessica Dapsis is running that, and it's like a transitional program. I can read what it says. The newly developed Access Transition Program for Noble High School's Special Education Department is starting a student-led coffee business for staff to purchase coffee, tea, hot cocoa, and eventually some baked goods. This business will allow students to gain hands-on work experience to develop their work readiness skills for future employment. The Atlantic Federal Credit Union Foundation has donated $2,000 to help start this program. The funding will be used for food, supplies, uniforms, and equipment. So Access, for the acronym for Access is Accessing Community Connections and Empowering Students to Succeed in Life. That's the Access program. So that is $2,000.
So we need to vote on
We
that, right?
do.
Can I have a motion to accept that?
I make motion to accept.
I'll motion. Second, it's Kate. All those in favor?
Yes.
Stephanie? Thank you. That was everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so Kate
Yep.
votes to accept that.
Okay, good. The next one is from Sun Life Assurance Company of Canada, which is it's an insurance company, and they have donated $500 to the backpack program.
What's the connection there?
I am not sure what that connection is. It's a
Sometimes
parent
it's
of MSAD 60.
Yes.
It's a parent.
Sometimes I get a match from work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is the which program? What's it
Sun
called?
Life Insurance Company.
Do we do vote on that?
We do, thank you.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to accept that?
I make a motion
Alva?
to accept that donation.
Somebody like to second? Kate? All those in favor of accepting that donation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So everybody was good with that? Good. All right, so I think that's done.
Educational program.
Yes, educational program, we're going fast. I'm just gonna send around a few photos. So one is the 100th day celebration at North Berwick Elementary School. The other is a writing, first graders that read a story and first grade authors from Hussey School. So this is the first grade class and they did a little project and some writing. So there's 2 pages for that. And then on Monday afternoon, Sue, AJ, Mike Roberts and I headed up to UMF and we attended a job fair. So we have a picture of that.
We were not looking for jobs for ourselves, although there was somebody from Florida across the way that looked kind of good.
Yes,
Um,
so we'll send
Yeah,
that way. just
we
so
were
you can
accosting
see.
all kinds of,
You're trying to
Yeah.
entice.
we had
new
like, what did we
employees.
get?
12. We had
12 contacts with
12
potentials, and a couple of them were good.
Yeah,
That was
good.
And the thing is too, is they were for key positions.
Right.
You know, like some of the harder to fill
Yeah, like
positions, we
SNAP.
had some good contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was very.
That was our first one, was a math person, like, ooh, come on.
Now, why did Mike go? Did he go in 6th grade?
Yes.
He went.
And AJ both attended, they
Oh,
both
I-
attended UMF.
We brought the night though, that was the best.
Yes.
You did that.
Isn't that awesome?
That's okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, while we're talking about the night, this has nothing to
Yes.
do with this, but,
Thank you.
when they do are you doing an auction again? The Ryan one?
Yeah.
Okay, my idea is I'm going to make a noble gnome,
Oh, okay.
unless somebody else is.
No, you're in. All right, we'll be chatting.
That's good.
Perfect.
And I'll just go through attendance and staff and student attendance, again, just because that's what we do, just to keep track of everything, just to make sure our numbers are looking good. So our student attendance has been a high of 96 for all of the buildings, and then we had a low one day of 85 in one of the buildings, percent present. Our staff range was from 11 absent all the way down to 2 absent in the buildings. So those are really looking good still. If you look at our dashboard, our counts for positive cases, very, very low at this point in time. We've had, I think it was 2 last week from the high school, 2 this week from the high school, and then there was 1 at the middle school. So we're looking pretty steady. Yeah, so that is very good. So those are our educational updates.
Okay. Next item is the draft calendar for next year.
All right, I can't believe we're here
It's all
already.
in color and it's really.
I know. I have a hard copy if you would like to see it as well.
I'm a camera person.
Okay, I do too.
Just.
I hope that you're able to look at it online.
Can you guys, do you see it? Draft calendar?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
And we are having a meeting on Monday afternoon at SRTC to go through the calendar. So when we go talk about this calendar, and if you approve this evening, then I bring this in on Monday to that meeting. We can only have a total of 5 dissimilar days between all of the districts, which is very challenging. We're already past that. So what that means is that we have to have a letter go out from SRTC and all the superintendents in the group that sends students to SRTC, explaining why we have those dissimilar days. And the DOE can approve it, or they can call us up and say, figure it out, or they can deny it, and then we will have to come back to you for a further we need to modify it and bring
Is
it back to
it
you.
just workshop days that are messing it up, or what is it?
Our biggest, our problem for us is our start date is different than everybody else's. So we will look at that in future contract discussions to get more aligned. So basically, and those are 2 days.
They start, oh, and they can, we've got August 31st.
The problem is that even if you're starting SRTC, it doesn't matter, your school has to be in session.
And they're actually starting classes the 29th?
Yeah, they're starting
okay,
earlier.
all right.
So
It's a little bit hard.
it is tough. It is tough. So we have our administrative workshops, we've got new teacher orientation in August, and then SRTC starts the 29th. We have August 31st a teacher workshop day, and then September 1st is the workshop day, and in our contract, September 1st is the start date. So that's what we need to pay attention to at the next contract negotiations. Then we have the Labor Day weekend, and then as you see, we have some of the late starts remain on Wednesdays all the way through, except for when we have finals and exams and all of that. I'm just trying to see any highlights that are different than some of the other types of things. We have a teacher workshop, this is different. October 7th, we put a teacher workshop day in there, and that aligns with Kittery. Kittery does that, and we're trying to work with some different districts around here to do like a 1-day, full-day workshop for all of our staffs. So we're working toward that.
I remember the old days, we used to actually have a,
Well, I
I wonder
remember
if
we used to
today-
do that, it was quite a while ago, but you had to
Yes.
sign up for what.
yeah, and
all that.
it's something that we want to try to
Yeah.
reestablish at some level.
Then I don't think there's any changes. We've got the adult ed graduation to be determined. We have the June 9th, Noble High School graduation date. We have June 15th as the teacher workshop day, and if we're in session due to snow days, we recognize Juneteenth if we are in session. So that is the calendar.
And this, we don't have to, you're
You
gonna meet with them and
I'd like
possibly some changes.
no, I don't think so. What I would like to do is if we could approve the calendar, I can bring the approved calendar to SRTC. And then we will send a letter off to the DOE.
For any changes
Yeah,
that,
for any changes that they feel we need to make.
What have we done that before?
We,
Requested a change.
Steve had to go up 1 year, right? Was it Steve? Had to go up 1 year.
because we were too out of sync. That was a while ago, that was
Right.
towards the beginning.
Right.
So we worked really well with the,
I just wondered what.
Right.
the reality is that there is not a lot of wiggle room in these calendars anywhere, so what we have is kind of what we have, so.
So you want us to approve it?
Please, thank you.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I make motion to approve it.
Albert made the motion, second? Kate, second?
I'll second it.
Fine.
Okay,
Who was that?
Victoria.
Oh, all right, go Victoria.
All those for the calendar?
Stephanie?
We're
Yes.
voting to approve the calendar? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That was everybody.
Okay,
Anybody opposed? I guess not. Okay.
did Denise not get it?
Denise did not get it.
Okay.
She texted
No.
you?
Okay.
Okay, so financial summary, is that what's next?
I don't think Jen did one.
Okay, so let me share with folks.
Because we,
Oh, she leave?
Yeah,
I
she
have it.
said-
Oh, okay, perfect, okay. So yes, this is the financial summary for the month of February. there, again, it's kind of tracking the income. And one of the things first things I look at is the revenue, and we have 33% remaining for the year, and down below where you see the percentages of the year, it matches the 33% of the full year.
That's a good thing.
So that tracks because that's where most of our revenue comes in. There's nothing outrageous. We'll see a big jump next month in facilities as we recognize the SRRF overage that we budgeted for. We budgeted at that big $500,000 line, and I think about $350,000 will be coming over in the month of March. So when you see that, you'll see that balance available go down.
What would that be under?
That would be under maintenance facilities.
Oh, maintenance expenses, okay.
Yes. So you'll see that instead of there being that large amount still outstanding and available, it will go down. But again, that was budgeted, and I think, again, of the 500,000, I think 350 or so will come over. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So far, so good.
Okay. Employment.
Okay, so we have a resignation this evening from Melissa Caldwell from Hussey School as a school principal, so we need a motion for that.
Motion to accept the resignation.
Somebody to second?
Anybody?
Anybody?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
That was
Victoria,
Victoria.
okay. All right, all those in favor?
Stephanie?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So we're down to 7, right, because Denise never.
Right.
So, right.
Yeah, I'll have to put in she left me. I am still trying to reach her. I don't know if she just got lost in space and time.
Well, she said she might have to leave.
Yeah,
Right.
she did.
Okay,
All right, then we have retirement.
we have 3 retirements. We have Amy Millette, who has been the Noble Middle School guidance counselor for 28 years. Not all at the middle school. She was at Berwick Elementary when we had Berwick Elementary, and
Yeah,
I think she did.
Yeah.
And she moved right up. So that's Amy Millette. So I believe we do each one individually for
Yeah.
retirements.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we need to
Make a motion.
make a motion for that.
Amy, now.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second to that?
Sure, I'll do it. I second it.
Victoria, okay. All those in favor, accepting the resignation?
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
The next one we have is William or Bill Fulford, who is at North Berwick Elementary School, grade 5, 35 years, with
Yeah.
SAD 6.
So, on all of these, I'm gonna put with gratitude or
Yes,
something,
yes.
okay, yeah.
We have a motion for that resignation.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Alva,
With
would like
gratitude
to-
on all the.
Yeah.
someone to second that.
I'll second.
That was that Stephanie?
Got it. Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
And our last retirement is Nancy Day from Hanson School. She's literacy interventionist, 13 years with MSAD 60. So that's Nancy.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody,
Yeah.
I'll second it for you. All in favor of that, accepting that resignation?
Yes.
Seven?
Does the district have any kind of a luncheon or party for people who are retiring?
Typically, it's school-based or department-based.
Okay.
They definitely do stuff though. But we try to hit as many as we can.
Yes.
Yes. All right, probationary administrator nomination.
Sure, so earlier today, you should have received from Jen a copy of those administrators that are on probationary status due to the length of time that they've been in our district. So those are the names that we're nominating this evening for you.
It's 8 of them. And we have to prove that they
You
get.
do need to make a motion.
Individually or?
All at once is fine.
I'll make a motion to approve, the probationary administrators.
Thank you. Can somebody to second that? Kate's gonna second it. All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, 7-0. All right, now we're on to other.
Are we doing the budget? Where's that from?
It's the budget workshop, it's after that.
Oh, okay. I'm all confused. Okay, good. Okay.
I've got something for other.
Sure.
Can we do something on our next meeting to kind of sync up everything with athletics? I know that we already put our policies in place if people want to use inside the building and whatnot, but nail it down for every town as far as field use, school use, and also the paperwork going home. I guess at least in Lebanon, someone tried to send home something about baseball and they were told they couldn't. And then someone else tried to send home things about Cub Scouts. And I just had 2 different people tell me that they can't seem to get paperwork to go through. So could we just, I guess, lay out what's allowed and what isn't? And then that way, if we have a clear what is and isn't, we can direct people. I just want to make sure if people want to get paperwork home for Cub Scouts, baseball, whatever it is, I feel like they should be able to get that sent.
Well, I was told that the Little League stuff went out and it was approved
Okay.
by who, I don't know.
All right, yes, we can check into that, and then I think the beginning part of your question or comment, Stephanie, was trying to get the building use or the use of facilities form looked at again.
Yeah, just because people still have, with COVID, how we had different things that we allowed and didn't. Just something that shows each of our buildings, which ones are allowed for which things. If we could have some sort of reference sheet that people could just refer to, maybe on our website, because I get a lot of questions about this stuff. And I just feel like if we put something out there that everybody could see it, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so we do have one other.
Okay.
We're going into a budget workshop at the conclusion of this meeting, but I guess I'll start with the timing of North Berwick, right?
Yes.
So North Berwick, the town of North Berwick sent us an email earlier this week requesting that all of our documents from us for the vote in June goes to them pretty quickly. When is it? It's April 7th?
So April
April
7th is their deadline to supply information to their printers, and April 15th, I think, is to the state. But the April 7th deadline means we have to have from the attorneys the printed ballot that they can reproduce. And then it also gets sent to the state, so it loads into their machines, the voting machines somehow.
Is that earlier than usual?
Yes.
Well, we have never had to have it that early because we have on our calendar to approve the budget on April 7th. That was our last day. What that means is we need time not only to have it approved here, send the documents to the attorney so they can turn it around for the 7th. So we are going to need to approve our budget, ideally have the last draft next week and make it a real meeting to vote on it. So we have a lot to discuss tonight.
Why did they make it so much earlier?
They're getting from their printers, what the email said was that their printers are saying if it's received after the 7th, they cannot guarantee that it will be ready for the vote. So we don't want to hold up we don't want to have an issue with our ballot at the vote. All of the clerks in the 3 towns were CC'd on this email. So they're all on the same, they all got the same information.
How are we gonna possibly get it approved by next week?
Well,
really?
we've got some thoughts. too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
Okay, I'm glad
everybody's-
someone's
yes.
thinking.
We're actually not that far away.
We're not that far
Okay,
away.
all right.
We're not
Yeah.
that far away.
Yeah, so we'll continue with our budget workshop tonight. Hopefully, we can agree that we like where we're gonna end up. And if so, what I'll do is, over the next week, I will pull all the numbers through and come up with a draft for you next week, so you can see it in paper, or online, and, be comfortable with where it is. So yes, we were, it's a week early, but it's not insurmountable. We can do this.
That's true. We were supposed to vote on the 7th, and next week would be the 24th.
So isn't that,
No, the 30, I think it's the 30th.
oh, I missed that, I missed a week, you're right.
So I mean, theoretically, if we really end up pushing it, we could do the 31st, but it would be better if we were able to get it done. Right?
Oh,
So that's okay. So we'll need to have a meeting next week.
well, we were gonna wait.
Right,
We were going
right.
to, and it'll
But it's
have to
gonna
be
be
an
a real
official
meeting,
meeting so
yes.
that you can accept the budget. We could have a workshop and then a meeting, or however you wanna set that up.
No more public input still, so motion to adjourn and then we'll start the
Wait.
budget.
Kate has a question.
I actually have two others.
Sure, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the first is, and I can't remember the fellow's name, but he has gotten up during public input a couple of times and talked about proficiencies in math and reading.
Just like it,
Yes.
So, my question is, where did those numbers come from? And if they are not correct, is there something we should be doing to correct the perception?
They're a little skewed. They are from 2018, and it's just one data point on a statewide test. So it's a little skewed. So we can certainly, even in our annual report, we can address some of the scores. We haven't had, because of COVID and the state moved from Smarter Balanced to the ME, back to Maine Educational Assessment. And now we're using NWEA, which is a system that we've used before, but they're not gonna start even kind of holding schools and publishing all that information. We need like 3 years of data.
Okay.
So, but we can certainly address.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I've been talking to a colleague in the Republican Party, and we're trying to find somebody from the Green Party who would sponsor a nonpartisan voter information day for 18-year-olds in high school. And those will be old enough to vote in the primaries in June and then the elections in fall. I wondered if the board would support that, if you would support that, or if this is not the right time to do that.
So if they would come into the school and they would do what?
So the idea would be, there would be,
It's like a voter sign up, right?
yeah, basically, yeah.
Signing up our 18-year-olds.
Mhm.
In the old days, part of their senior celebrations, senior project, was to actually register to vote.
Mhm.
So I don't see that as a conflict. And I think the question.
That's only if they wanted to, it's not.
Exactly.
Right, no, makes
Required.
sense. Well, actually, we used to make them do it, but,
All those are the old days.
so, yeah.
So it would give them an easy way to register to vote. It would give them information on the security of voting in the state of Maine, which is very secure.
Yeah.
And would also give them an opportunity to talk to candidates who are either in office or running for office. And as I said, it would be nonpartisan, so both parties, both of the major parties would be represented, and any other libertarians or green or whomever could also participate as well.
So it's like just like out in the lobby doing
Yeah,
it or something like that?
Let's talk to AJ and Ally about like if they have any concerns, but I it's a good citizen initiative
Civic
for kids. Yeah. So maybe we can even do it through a social studies class that could work with you,
That would be great.
or even maybe even the student council. Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any others? a motion to adjourn would be nice. Kate made the motion, somebody to second. Alva, all those in favor of adjourning?
Wait, don't go anywhere back there.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We'll start just with, we reshared the decision sheet from last week. So I'm gonna hand a hard copy out for those here. For those of you that aren't here, Denise. So
That one in an email. Is that the one you're looking at?
Yes.
it says 20.
Shared tonight, yeah.
So just to recap, I believe everybody was here last week, but we had the administrators here, had an opportunity to walk around and ask some questions. We came back together with the administration still here and talked through some of the decision sheet, just as a first glance. It was the first time that you saw that. And then we talked about your thoughts on where we should come in for the budget. And at that point, it was a little under 5%. So this week, that is what we have worked on. So we have the decision sheet for you to look through. And let's see, let me just explain. Okay,
I can certainly explain.
okay.
So page 1 is the exact same sheet that you had last week. Page 2 is what we have worked on this week, and these are the changes that we are recommending to the original budget draft 1 that you have received. We propose moving these 6 positions out of the district budget and into our federal ESER 3 grant, and that is the $4 million grant that was most recently awarded. These address things that are COVID related, specifically behavior, the non-security resource officer, which is also kind of a behavior and a guidance, not guidance.
Security.
Yeah, wandering around, making sure people are where they need to be. We have some social emotional, we have a social emotional ed tech. We have a high-level math group. Some of this addresses learning loss, right? Those groups that need some extra support, perhaps to get back to where they should be. We have a half-time nurse, again, to help with the volume of people and responsibility here at the high school. A new communications director, again, related to keeping the community, finding a way for us to keep the community involved and up to date through various online platforms. We also, in speaking with Kevin Moore, this was not on the first sheet last week, this is something new. One of the projects on the CIP list for North Berwick was an HVAC project for the gym and the cafeteria. And that falls squarely within this, just like the middle school HVAC project. So we feel like we can combine those in that grant and be good. Additionally, the following 2 things we're removing from the budget. There was a storage shed and student workshop at MHA that will be postponed. It will continue to be on our list
Forever.
again,
Hopefully we'll get there.
but for now, it will go back on the list. And we are also proposing that we eliminate the new position for a grade 1 teacher in North Berwick, and instead cycle the kindergarten section, the extra kindergarten section up to 1st grade.
So looping, it's gonna be.
They're gonna loop, a teacher can loop from kindergarten to 1st grade.
So you're gonna have you think you're gonna have a drop in the kindergarten numbers?
There's the potential, that's what it's looking like right now.
Really? Because I mean, I thought, the whole situation up there is so tight, and that's why they wanted the teacher.
So, and we've had conversations with Mike and
Yes.
and Sarah. The next is to reduce the budget. So these things are not coming out of the budget, but the amount that we're putting there is being reduced. We reduced that salary adjustment from 3,000 per person to 2,500. And we are reducing some substitute teacher costs so that we may keep a new permanent sub requested for Knowlton in the budget.
So you're taking it out of the regular substitute line.
Correct, so there are daily substitute costs separate from the permanent
So-
subs.
You think it's gonna be that much less? I mean, I know it's been more for COVID, but.
Generally, what happens when we add permanent subs is we reduce we reduce the other daily sub cost because now we have a permanent body.
Right.
So that's kind of the adjustment that we made. Michelle feels that with a dedicated body, she can manage her classrooms better than if she's relying just on the daily subs that may or may not be there.
Yeah, she's having a harder time getting like the intermittent subs versus if someone could come in and just be in the building.
Right, oh, definitely, no.
So,
Yep, so,
So we're
we had
hopeful.
tossed it back and forth, which way to go, but, in speaking with Michelle, we think that's gonna be the best, solution. And then, of course, those two projects that were on that first sheet that we are adding to the budget, because the quotes came in after we had gone to print for the first draft. Those are the outside lighting projects at the middle school, the Hussey School, and the Knowlton School. And doing some painting in the Lebanon Elementary classrooms to give that a little freshening, for the benefit of everybody, students, families, staff that need to work in that building, so. What these things do, so if you take all of these recommendations, if you look below, you'll see draft one of the budget was $46,189,410. When you take into account the savings and the extra costs from above, that brings the revised budget to $45,411,207, which is a 4.08 increase to expenses and a 4.87 increase to taxpayers.
I have a couple problems with it. Sure.
Yes, well, that's what
I really think that it should be $3,000 per teacher.
okay.
And I don't have any trouble if we go over 5% saying why. And the lowest paid tied with Biddeford in all of York County, and we can't keep teachers. I don't have a problem saying that to a taxpayer.
Just so you know, and this is not to change your mind, but just more information, with the 2,500, we will still be above other local districts next year.
it puts us smack in the middle.
It puts us right in the middle, just so you know.
Yeah.
Again, not to sway you, just more information so you can discuss.
And I just think painting the classrooms with LES, there's so much work that needs to be done in that building before you paint walls. That it's just like whitewashing what's really wrong.
Right, and it's certainly cosmetic, and it was just the way, the first impression, as we hire staff, it's just the first impression. The other day, and we asked civil consultants, and we asked him, after the referendum didn't pass, we asked him to take a look at what it would cost to have that building be extremely viable, and it's $7 million to put things in, structural things, just to get it up to code. And so we'll be discussing that with the larger, in the larger board meeting. But this was just what you said, this was a cosmetic, how to, not expecting miracles, but just.
I mean, you still want the building to at least be bright and painted and, what I mean? Because it's not going away.
Only so much paint could do.
I understand that, we understand that.
It's just.
Is this something that the parent teacher organization might be willing to take on as a project?
They may be able to. I don't know what their funding looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
They've been doing stuff like playgrounds and supporting the classroom teachers and just doing that kind of stuff, so I think they may struggle with like, why isn't that in the school budget to take care of that kind of stuff? Fair enough.
Well, if we put them back up to 3,000, would we still be under the 5% or slightly over 5%?
Over at this point.
Let me figure that out here.
Then you'd have to come up with some other savings, because the painting isn't that much. It's not going to really.
It would bring us to approximately, and again, these percentages are approximate. I haven't pulled through all the pennies yet to make sure, but adding that back in would bring us to a 4.47 increase to expenses and a 5.72 increase to taxpayers.
I agree with Nancy that it would be nice if we could find something other than the teacher pay. It's not a cut, but not as big of an increase as we wanted to give. If we could find something else, kind of. I mean, the teachers are the so important to the whole picture. You know, I want to make sure that they, you know, and also, you know, we're having that problem with retention after like their 3-year, train them and they get 3 to 5 years of experience and then leave. I don't know. It's been an ongoing problem, so.
Is there a way to structure the communications director role as a half-time or 3/4 time?
That's what we used to have, right?
It was stipend. We could, the problem is that's in the grant,
Oh,
not that it's a problem,
Okay,
but the
okay.
teacher's
Got it,
adjustment's not in the grant,
got it, okay.
nor can it be. We thought through that, and that's not.
Not hazard pay.
Not covered right there.
Okay, we put the painting into the grant.
It's not cool.
Yeah, it's not COVID related.
Well, but it's social emotional. You know.
Nice try. For some,
Oh my gosh,
I think
that's
it's certainly for
funny.
some. I'm gonna bring you in when they question you.
Okay, yellow, whatever, I'm be in a good mood, there we go.
Could you categorize part of the teacher's increase as hazard pay, maybe? I don't know.
So I'm just gonna say this without it being, if I were on step 4, at 42,000 this year. Step 5 next year is 44,630
With or without?
without. So if you add the 2,500, that is, it's a $5,000 raise.
Which is more than 10%.
Yeah. So it does really bump. I mean, I was the one who
Well,
said.
part of it raises the step. So, but
Exactly,
anyway,
I know,
it's like I'm
like-
talking steep.
Exactly, no, and I think honestly, Nancy, that's just your mind is a teacher mind. And we're looking at our resident mind too, you know, and you're playing both the things, but I mean, I wanted $5,000, that's what I wanted. So I'm here at 2,500, just looking at everything else and saying, if we cut more pieces, how's that gonna impact teachers negatively? If we can give them $2,500 this year, which means that most folks will get a pretty significant raise for next year. And then we're negotiating for the year after. So I feel like we're moving it in the right direction. I mean, we're definitely moving the needle, big time.
What's the amount on the lowest step, the lowest?
Well, doesn't have to be 40 for next year.
Right, next year's BA would have been, prior to this, 40,130, so that would make that 42,630.
And if you had a 0 going to a 1.
Right, a 0 going to a 1 goes from 37,500 this year to what will then be 42,
So they're plus.
well, 43.
So they're gonna get more.
So,
Yeah.
so it's not, I mean,
It's
I
not
don't know the
necessarily-
tax works,
yeah,
but I just wonder what's the lowest that anyone would get.
We have to,
Yeah,
About-
Bill, I can play for a minute while you guys.
Well, would it be about the 5,000 if we kept it at 25?
So let me look at, because really where it happens is the top, right?
Sure,
That's where the
sure.
least amount of change happens.
And not people going from, the scale also changes, the number of steps
Right,
change. So there's big increases for some.
But for the people at the top, they may not get as much of a step, but they're gonna get the consistent 2,500. In other words, that's not gonna be.
But this year they're gonna get a step, right?
Yeah, so anybody at 18.
Unusually.
Yeah. Minus, so they're getting 1,100 without the 2,500, they're getting $1,130 step, so we add that to the top, and that's $3,600 that they're getting at the top. And so, and then just, it flows all the way through. We
Right.
try to keep it pretty consistent. I'll play with some of the numbers while you're talking.
Yeah,
To give you some percentages,
like you
but-
said, that was a good.
I mean, that's a lesser percent, obviously, than the ones at the bottom who are making less money, so the percentages are gonna be different, but it's a fairly significant increase for what we've been able to do over the
For
past
them
few
over
years.
years.
And the next year would be
A negotiation.
negotiation.
Yeah, and I totally would, if we could do it, I would totally
Yeah.
say $5,000 is where it's at, because that'll put us like, not above the middle, but sort of like at the higher, like the second tier positive versus below. Yeah. And part of this is just that people around us have been negotiating pretty aggressively. And we, our association has been very workable with us. And so that, unfortunately for them, sometimes doesn't move in the right direction.
which we just did a 2-year
Yeah,
contract
we did a piece for that, same, because COVID hit, we were like, holy smokes, let's just do something.
And they agreed to a lump sum
Yeah.
in one of those
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, they've been very reasonable with the community, but I think it's
We just
also.
need something, the people that are here, that are
Yes.
top of ski,
Yeah.
have been here a long time, yes. We just need to do something to not move people after 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, agreed.
So we're still working on that. Any other things that,
We did have just the administrators too. The administrators talked through this.
Yes, they were,
As far as, being able to hire, right?
Yeah.
Like their concern too is not only keeping our people, but being able to attract new hires. And again, like all of us, they wish it were more, but they think that
they want to
they, with the 2,500, they can see that, again, the kind of mentality is we just want to make sure that we are at least meeting or beating the salaries of those districts immediately around us, the Sanfors, the 35s, those sorts of things.
well, we're not gonna hit 35.
We're not gonna hit 35
57,
anymore, but
57, Yeah.
6, those that are similar to
Yeah.
us.
benefits offer.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be above all that, so that's good.
But again, if that's something, we can go back and try to find another place.
No, I mean, whatever, but what do other people think? Okay.
Stephanie, Lynn, Rebecca, Victoria.
Thoughts?
Hello? Everybody there?
Well, that sounds reasonable.
I'm listening.
I think, yeah, I forgot it's only for 1 year until the next budget negotiation or the next contract negotiation, so we can take another look at it then. At least they're getting something. I just, like my husband being part of a faculty, it's always like the first thing, but at YCCC, they always want to lay people off or whatever. It's like the faculty is so important to the reputation of the school. I hate to see it overlooked, but I guess you're really trying. I can tell you're doing the best to try to stay competitive, and you're giving them a nice boost for this year at least.
So this 20.
I'll let somebody else talk now.
The 2,500 that we're putting in, is that gonna remain in there, so that would
Yeah,
be
that's it.
part of the, so that would be the
That is just
bottom
it.
budget, okay.
Yeah, that's just it. That's an ongoing
All right.
piece. It's not a bonus, it's an ongoing.
Okay.
Which is a pretty big commitment, really.
Yeah.
So I liked the 3,000. I really, really wanted us to be able to do that. But I think the same thing, at least 2,500 is decent. And especially where we're gonna be renegotiating, I think that, I think it's good to do it like that, 2,500.
Yeah, I agree with what Stephanie just said. I don't have a problem with the 2,500.
Yeah, I think the 2,500 sounds right, only because right now with the crunch that everybody's getting in the communities is themselves between their jobs, gas, heat, electric. I just think that that might be a little better for them to say, yeah, check the budget as far as that goes, only because we're trying to, save it, and next year's another year. So, it might just be more palatable to them this way. But yeah, it sounds good.
Speaking of gas prices, has that been factored into the transportation budget? The fact that gas is so much higher? I'm sure they're paying a lot more now. I don't know if they look towards next year and.
Right. So I have a plan for that. We did increase heating oil by $125,000 for the next fiscal year. So that, unfortunately, that doesn't bring us huge, it doesn't meet what today's price is. But again, I am hopeful that over the next six months or so before we hit the next heating season, that prices will moderate a bit. So that's one thing we did. The gasoline and the diesel that we use for buses and other vehicles, that I hadn't increased that at all. Part of that was, again, when we were talking and developing this, we hadn't been to Ukraine. And since the production of draft one, it became evident that we need to increase that. My idea is this, medical insurance throughout this budget is budgeted at 5%. And I would anticipate, given our positive loss ratio, that we will see at least a couple percent increase drop. So I anticipate maybe a 2 or 3%. Unfortunately, we will not get this information prior to approving our budget. But again, based on the last, I think I've been tracking it for about 10 or 11 years. We should be in a good spot if we anticipate 2 or 3%. Each percent, as you can see on that front page, each percent translates to about $50,000 of savings. And what I propose is that I move the medical insurance before the next draft down to 3% and move the fuel up exactly the same dollar amount. So don't increase the budget, but put that $100,000 to gas and diesel.
So we already know what our loss ratio is, they told us.
We know what the loss ratio is, we just don't know what that means as far as increase.
Right.
But I think that's a way not to increase the bottom line of the budget, take advantage of some savings and buffer that. If anybody has any thoughts on that, that'd be, if that's palatable or,
I mean, it really is a crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot.
You don't know.
It is, and I mean, you have to have it, it's not like you cannot heat the school.
Exactly. And of course, what happens with things like this is you have to do it. So we will moderate. If next year we find that gas is still as expensive as it is today, we'll find places to have savings just as we do all year. So what I'd like to do is, again, bump that up some And who knows, maybe gasoline and diesel won't be that expensive, but heating oil will be, or, but at least if it's in that fuel, area.
How much do we have in, I can never recall, is it contingency or what do we call that fund?
We have some contingency in maintenance, I believe
Or
it's
fund
20.
balance, maybe I'm talking about fund balance.
So fund balance is different. Contingency, we have a $20,000 contingency built into maintenance. The fund balance, after taking out some to reduce this budget, we're gonna have approximately 1.5 million.
And that's
In
within the
fund
state
balance.
limit, I know the state limits it, so.
Yeah, so what happened this year as well is the state, it limits it to 3%. Starting in fiscal '22, that goes up to 9%, and then I think it recedes back down, hold on, I have it right here.
They realize 3% is really not very much.
Sorry,
No, it's not.
9% will be allowed for fiscal years 22, 23, 24, and 25, and then it will go back to a new rate of 5%.
Why? Just to let schools catch up on
It's
expenses?
the way that the legislature decided it, I don't really understand.
That's
How
interesting.
small it goes back down to?
It goes back down to 5. So they have,
That's
you'll
still a little
have
bit.
4 years of 9, and then you can go back to 5. So approximately 1.2 million is 3%. We usually go below that. We usually, at the end of a budget cycle, go down to like 500 or 750,000. But my concern with keeping a larger fund balance has to do with all of the money that may need to come out of the grant funding. And I don't want to I want to have money to offset those grant expenses in fiscal '24 and beyond. So that we, every school district in the country will hit this COVID funding cliff because we've been given
Right.
tens of millions of dollars
Yeah.
to spend toward these expenses, which was needed. But when you start adding, learning loss positions and guidance positions and behavior positions, you don't suddenly stop needing them after 2 years.
Right.
And so having to absorb all of these costs will really put some budgets in a significant increase. So what I'm trying to do is almost wean us off the grants. So put 1.5 million this year, maybe it's only $1 million next year. And then 750,000 or $500,000, like really try to step down.
So how long do we have to spend what's left of the grant?
20, one of the grants needs to be finished by September of '23, and then the other one needs to be finished by September of '24.
Oh, okay.
So we have a couple of years.
So we have a couple of
wiggle
years.
room.
They're not like the first one we got, they had to be done by December 31st.
No, I think they learned enough. That's how ridiculous that was.
Right, so that means the $1.8 million grant will be in fiscal '24, and this $4 million grant will be in fiscal '25, where we'll see those last.
But remember, most of the $4 million grant is really about infrastructural things, HVAC, windows, things. So there's a chunk, because we had to spend, what was the percentage? $800,000 on educational recovery stuff, so people kind of things. But the bulk of it we were able to spend on things to improve, capital improvement stuff. So it's just, it's a little bit of a dance.
It's that 490,000 on that page 2 that will hit that last grant, so that 500,000. So it's not 4 million that will hit, it's somewhere in that ballpark. So does anybody, I guess, have thoughts on the medical and the fuel? Is that something that you think is an all right strategy?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a good idea.
Okay, so I will make that happen before I present the next budget. I'll reduce those medical and I'll bump up that fuel.
Did you want to talk through the painting of the classrooms at Lebanon Elementary a little more? I know we started that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to all the other costs, that's pretty, it's
You know,
a pretty small item.
and I get what you were saying about it's a Band-Aid, but if it helps, that little amount of money helps. Makes sense.
Sorry, the building, because the referendum failed, the building will be here for many years. And we'll have to have bigger conversations about how to keep that building going, and where to allocate funds on that.
One of the things that the principal said to me last week was the insulation is so poor in that school that the oil truck is out front every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it does,
I think it's the art room, because we used to have meetings in the art room.
Oh.
And we would freeze.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But it's the windows or something, I don't know what it was.
So just one thing that I had put in as a possible question, and I know it blows the budget stuff, but I thought it was probably important to get the floor either repolished, refinished in the gym, or get new VCT. I mean, I don't know what we're looking at for pricing there, but I was looking at that as kind of an important thing. At least the kids will have a nice gym. What do you guys think of that?
That's a $10,000 strip, repaint, and reseal the gym floor, is what she's talking about. It's on the list.
Is it already on?
It's on your CIP list. It's not a project we chose, but
Oh,
she's
okay.
recommending that we bring it into the budget, and it's a $10,000 estimated cost.
So what about the volleyball stuff? Is that still in there?
That's still in our budget.
The volleyball, yes, so that's a new program. There is so much interest. I think there were 80
Yes.
middle school students, so they had to add another coach. So next year, they have made it a high school program as well as a middle school program. It had previously been funded by intramural money as it was getting started and kind of establishing itself. There's about $19,000 worth of cost for uniforms, equipment, balls, those sorts of things. And then there's a $30,000 project in the CIP list to redo the floor in the A gym at the high school because it doesn't have volleyball lines on it. So if we don't do that, they won't be able to play here. So the total cost is approximately $50,000. I think it was 49 on the sheet. But that is, again, something you can discuss to decide whether or not you wish to keep that in.
Yeah, it's a very positive.
Yeah.
Piece. So we just, when we talked with the admin team, they were like, if we can possibly keep that in, that just makes sense. The things that are still in, that are not been moved around is the new health teacher at the high school, the 3 large buses, the volleyball program, and then there's the conversation about local increase for nutrition and for adult education.
So is that in there, or what?
Those are still in our regular, we kept them in the,
So you
right?
kept, so
Okay.
those are not in the district budget per se, because we charge the town separately for school nutrition
Oh,
and
that's right.
separately for adult
Yeah.
education. And what we had done is we had given them somewhere like a 3% increase to each program to cover costs. Travis, during the presentations to the Facilities and Finance Committee, suggested that we may want to not assess the towns an increase and keep them at a 0%. So that's why they're on this list.
Not to be a nag, but it moved from the gym floor to the thing about volleyball. Does anybody else feel the same way as me with the gym floor? I just don't want it to be forgotten.
Is there someplace where we could bump it to $10,000?
Yes. We could find $10,000. $100,000, $200,000 is harder, much harder, but I feel confident I could find somewhere $10,000.
Considering
Awesome. Great news. Thank you.
we got
you know, some of that was,
$10,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, to be honest with you.
what will probably happen is we will take a look at some of the things that directors and principals want to purchase and see if we can move that into this current fiscal year so that they purchase it this year and we don't have to put it in next year's budget. That's probably where I'll find the 10,000, Stephanie.
Perfect.
So is that something everybody agrees we should put back in?
I do.
Okay.
What about the ceiling? What about the ceiling in that gym?
I don't know, is that a project or is that, are you?
It's just the panels, right?
Yeah.
Kevin didn't have it on his list, I don't think, but we can certainly talk through that.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So the buses are still in here too. I'm just
Yes,
going through
the buses
these.
are
Yes, the
still in.
buses are still in.
Volleyball's still in, the health teacher.
Medical insurance, we're gonna try to put to 3%.
And hopefully we see a 2% or less increase and we have some buffer for if fuel goes up even higher or something, like, that's the ideal, but medical to 3%.
And I know we just talked about it, so are you saying we are gonna remove the school nursing and the adult education?
That's for you to discuss.
Okay.
So we were just finishing up with Stephanie's recommendation about the gym. And I will fund money for that. And we'll talk to Kevin about the ceiling and what that might entail. And if we need to find some more money, we'll work on that.
Okay.
I will reduce the medical to 3% and increase the fuel the same amount, so it doesn't hit, there's no change to the bottom line there. Nancy mentioned buses and the two, removing local increases for those two programs. So I think those are the three that I currently have on my open for discussion list.
Well, the buses are still, you did it.
They are in there, again, it's $60,000, it's approximately a $20,000 per year lease for 5 years to cover them, they're approximately $100,000. We have some buses already kind of in the bus graveyard that they will replace, so, and again, our goal is to keep kind of on and we try to keep to a 10-year turnover. And I think we're replacing 2012 buses, maybe 2013s, I think 2012s though. So we're about a 10, 11 year turnover, which is much better. I think years ago we were like 17.
Oh.
You know, we were significantly longer.
And I'm assuming that you've done cost analysis to look at the cost of leasing, the district leasing, as opposed to subcontracting from a transportation company.
Yes. Not in recent years.
Yeah, we haven't done it recently, but
yes.
it used to come up every other year and we did it every year.
One of the concerns I have about it is not so much transitioning to it, because you have different things. There was conversation, I remember in those years, about having drivers that are not employees of the district and what control do you have over who drives what route and those sorts of things. I think the other big concern is, so we have 43 buses perhaps, I'm shaky on that number, so it's a guess, but say we have 43 buses. If we divest and we sell them off, we go with a company, how do you ever get away from the company and bring it back in-house? Because you'd never be able to buy all those buses at once.
That's what Sanford did, and they're stuck.
You're a
student now.
I mean,
Yeah.
what you do is, maybe you do partial routes, some are local, some are with the company, some are local until you build it back up again, but it's a very big, consideration. It doesn't mean it shouldn't happen, it's just a consideration. So we want to keep those 3 buses in, is that the general consensus?
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
you really need to.
Okay.
I mean, that's a safety, anything that's a safety issue, I think.
Volleyball, we're good with keeping that in, I think, based on. Okay.
Let's compare something else. The East, what's it called?
The e-sport.
Yes,
Yes.
that got,
So we
That's
added,
We added it, yeah.
we added
coaching stipends for that, but there's no real expense other than that.
There's no
That I
uniforms.
don't even understand what this is.
It's online gaming stuff. And it's acknowledged by the MPA.
Yeah.
Because originally it was just a club thing,
Right.
but they've now
Oh, my
become,
goodness.
somebody, I don't know who did it, but somebody decided that they should be part of the MPA and they are now part of the MPA, so that changes them into the regular coaching role.
But we are the champions.
But we are the champions. We are the state champions.
Fiscal 20 for calendar, school year 22.
For how many schools are doing this though?
I think it's
I think there's a really.
well, COVID really kicked it in.
Oh, I guess it did.
You know what, we'll have.
Aaron,
I would just be
Aaron
interested to see, because this is, yeah.
I would love to actually have a fun board meeting that actually, like, I want the Noble Virtual Middle School to come in and talk to you guys. I love the esports people to come in.
Yeah.
We should actually just like have a fun board meeting.
Well, we will.
And have some volleyball students show what they've learned,
Yeah.
right? They can bump in here or something, you
Oh,
know?
God, no, they break the ice.
Yeah, we can do something fun. Once this budget's, yeah, we'll have an extra couple of meetings that we can just fit in if we get this budget done, right? That's what I keep saying.
So it did look like everybody was shaking their head for yes for keeping volleyball in.
Volleyball, yeah, okay. How about the assessments for those two other programs? School nutrition and adult education, would you prefer to keep them level
Well,
funded?
what's that gonna do, like, well, how's that gonna affect school lunch program if they don't?
So the increase is only for school nutrition, $5,000.
Yeah.
So it's not, they have a $1.5 million budget, and the increase will just be made up. The funding for that is very estimated, and we're doing our best to be estimated, but on a $1.5 million budget, the 5,000 won't sway it all that much. Worst case scenario, the district has to send over whatever it is to cover the school nutrition program. School nutrition program cannot end with a negative balance at the end of the year. It has to be at least zero. So every year we look at that and move money if we need to.
But the whole nutrition program is like fuel, with the cost of food going up.
Absolutely, it's very, and it does not help that the federal government and the state do not yet really know how it's going to go next year. The waivers that they've been using again for this year to keep meals free and to allow them to serve outside of the classic cafeteria model, rooms, other locations, whatever. Those were not extended. So those end in June. So it also reduces the reimbursement amount that the feds are going to give, which means the state is gonna have to pick up more, but exactly how it works is still very much in the air, I think.
It's hard to think about it, we don't actually know what's gonna happen.
It really is, yep.
We tried to be as we were conservative and assumed that the waivers were not gonna be renewed and that we would receive lower subsidy. So I think we're working on that. Abby works very hard to try to estimate food costs and other costs, to really
Is
make
it
the
getting
most.
any better? Is she actually getting food that she's ordered, or is it still?
It actually
She doesn't know.
flows.
Yeah.
It really does ebb and flow. Some weeks are really good, other weeks not so much.
So in this case, in the case of school nutrition, she would need to adjust another revenue source to absorb what that is. And similarly for adult education, that would come out of their fund balance.
Well, my next question was adult ed.
So adult education saw almost a 50% decrease in funding. And they're using a large portion of their own fund balance to to balance their budget for fiscal '23.
Did we cut their budget, or did they lose money from?
The state,
The state.
it was the state. And I'm not an expert on the formula for adult education. I don't really know how they do it. But I know that it's based on number of students
And that
During
academic program
COVID, I'm
is-
sure enrollment was down.
Well, it was in the, and it's based on the academic programming versus
Oh, it is,
enrichment.
not looking at the other stuff.
Enrichment is totally like on its own, it doesn't get reimbursed for enrichment.
It's also based on how much, it's one of those kind of archaic things, it's based on how much you spent before. So when we went from a full-time adult ed director with Brenda Gagne, and we went to a half-time director with Nicole, who was split between here and Sanford, that was a huge tens of thousands of dollars reduction in what we were spending. So we are now seeing the effect of what that does. So hopefully we will level out at some point, but we still have a year or two, I think, where we're gonna see more reductions, so.
It's complicated.
Numbers are looking ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the admin team worked really hard to like
Oh, I'm sure.
bring stuff up, and I feel, they feel pretty comfortable with what they're sharing with you.
Are these two the last two?
So anybody else have any other budget questions that you need answered? You wanna vote next week or?
Well, we can have a workshop, we'll do a workshop.
Yeah, before I have questions or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
I did have a question, but I don't think it's gonna affect anything in terms of finances. So on the Excel budget, the position went down point.
Okay, so this was an error. I mistakenly thought that the position, that our Excel teacher in Lebanon was a 5-day-a-week, but she was 4. So when we were budgeting 4, I thought there was a reduction of a day, and there wasn't. So it's going down 2 days. The program
Okay.
will go down 2 days in the district, from 11, I think, to 9. Is that?
What do you mean by classes or?
So let's think about that for a minute.
Yep.
Because we have,
Well, the other
that's
part of
the
my
full curriculum,
question,
you talk about elementary.
Elementary
Elementary is
only,
gonna,
yes.
because the middle school, high school are full-time.
They're full-time and that's not changed because the elementary
Right,
is,
because again, you have to remember where Excel starts to kick in is not, it's
Third,
third.
so that will be
Third grade,
corrected on the
third
next
grade.
draft, it will show a 0.4.
okay, the question was though too, we have a person going on a sabbatical, so are the other people going to be able, if we're already reducing, but you're just saying that's elementary?
Right, and so, and at the, I think
They have a plan.
they have a plan for the middle
Okay.
school, high school to
Yes.
cover the 8th grade piece that Adina does.
And the outside artists,
Yeah,
she's gonna
that's it.
schedule ahead of time so that they're ready to go.
So it's gonna go to down 0.4, you said.
0.4, not 0.6, yes, and you'll see that in the next draft.
Okay, any other
Will
questions?
Will that affect services for the kiddos or?
I'm gonna defer to our
yeah,
educators.
I would say that it's not going to impact our identified students. And what's happening is that there's 2 current 4th graders that are identified for Excel from North Berwick who are moving with the class
So 5th
to
grade.
5th grade.
Oh,
So we looked at that and said, what's that need?
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then we had, like you said, some of that, a decrease in Lebanon because we thought it was one thing and it actually was.
That
So,
makes sense.
And there are no positions or days lost with those staff, right? So it's not like we have an Excel teacher's losing a part of their job, they are all be still employed in the same fashion that they should be.
did you wanna, just going back to the school nutrition and adult ed,
How would you like me to do
yeah, do you
that?
wanna stay put with? How do you wanna work?
Do you wanna ask the towns for that increase, or do you wanna give them a 0% increase?
Was that removed out of that?
No, so it doesn't affect the district budget, because again, they're separate.
That's right.
So they're really individual to each program.
I think, well, it sounds like school nutrition probably can deal with less money than adult ed. Is that right about that? Is it?
It's all,
Relative.
yeah, it's all just a guess. Currently, we ask for $140,000 from the towns to support the school nutrition program.
Okay.
So this is would be a 5%, 3%. I believe that's a 3.6% increase for school nutrition if you want to keep the $5,000 increase in.
I don't know.
In the overall budget.
In the overall school nutrition
It's not
budget.
gonna make a huge.
What probably will happen is we will adjust our estimate for meal sales, like a la carte and student and adult sales, we will adjust it and look to get another $5,000 from that revenue source.
Which probably can happen because things are opening up again. Again, the a la carte sales were down. We typically use vending machines at the schools, and we haven't in the past 2 years. So there's a potential that will make that up. Yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
It's hard because we're buried in these budgets so much, and it's hard for you guys, I'm sure.
But again, just to make, it's a $1.8 million budget. $5,000 isn't going to make or break the budget.
Right.
Either way, no matter which way it goes. So if that's something you want to take out and give to the taxpayers, I'm happy to take that out. The reason that it was in there is in the past, we've had some similar thinking about increasing costs and that taxpayers, even if it's a small amount, that they are taking some responsibility for the increasing costs. But again, these are tough times, so maybe.
I mean, if she thinks she can, absorb it and still serve everybody, that's fine.
Okay.
Seriously, take it out?
So take it out.
Seriously, take it out?
If the school nutrition person can
Make it cover.
can cover it that way.
And Travis was supporting that too, that was his idea.
Yes.
How much do we, just off the round figure, top of your head, how much is the adult ed, that we asked the towns
Percentage?
for? Or, like last year, whatever it was.
Yeah. So adult education, the increase of 5735 is a 3.01% increase over last year's ask. And we did that, and then we bumped $71,528 to come out of their fund balance. So
they have their own separate fund balance.
they do.
Everything's separate, right?
And it's significant right now, it's over 200,000, so it's a significant fund balance. But using 71.5 in fiscal '23 brings that down significantly. There was also a senior member of their staff that retired and had a payout in fiscal '22 that will hit it.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000, depending on how this goes. So we probably have 2 more years of supporting them to this level.
Because I don't want to see them having to cut classes and stuff.
Right. What would happen in the issue, in the case of adult education, is we would add that 5735 back and increase the fund balance usage. The only money we have coming in are the taxpayers, the state subsidy, And the fund
People who take
balance.
classes.
Well, and the people who take the classes, that pays for itself, like, that has to net zero. So those, it's either fund balance, taxpayers, or the state. The state number isn't changing, and it's only what you're giving to the taxpayers or the fund balance, that's where our pivot is. We don't have any other, it doesn't really have any other funding source. We used to have vocational registrations, but all of those programs are now being handled differently, like CNA programs are now being held in facilities. So you work and train at the same time. So who would pay to train and then work when you can get paid to do it? So there are some changes going on in these programs that affect this as well. So take it out, make it
What
zero.
do people think? Speak up out there.
Was the recommendation of the finance committee? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I will take those out and make them the 0% increases for those two programs.
Does that sound good, Victoria, Rebecca, Stephanie, and Lynn?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me too.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, if we can keep this percentage that's under 5, and not move, again, it will adjust, it will fluctuate a little bit again once I pull all of these benefits and changes through, like it will not be exact to what's on this paper right here, but it will be close. Is that something we're getting close to being comfortable with the budget as a whole, or?
I don't think so.
We're happy to answer other questions if you come up with anything over the week, right? We can certainly come ready to talk about it.
I would say if anybody has any questions, why don't they email Denise through the week and then you
Yeah.
know, come prepared.
Absolutely. I can get back to you and be prepared to speak to it when we get here next week. Creative ideas accepted.
That question is gonna sound kind of negative.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, there's the rumbling of people, a pocket of people that will not accept the budget.
Yes.
Does that usually happen after it's come out, or before they vote, or does it start even like now? Because I'm just trying to think ahead to what are we gonna
It's
see?
usually when we do the vote, isn't it?
It's usually more around.
So it's
When we have the hearings.
more when the community sees the figures and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we mail out these booklets in April, so we have to get all the stuff back from the attorneys and all of that. We put them to print in April, actually, end of April, early May, they go out in the mail, so that they're ready for that meeting that we used to, well, hopefully we'll hold again, right, in the theater. And then, there are people always at that meeting who disagree.
Yeah.
But, there's good questions asked, and
Well, I know,
And then we have
having been on the inside, we've heard it before, but now in a different aspect.
yes.
What can we do?
So I think the
Take
other
the end of
piece
that.
we typically do is go to each of the towns,
Right.
which is always entertaining and good, right? It's good. It's a good conversation and usually we have good questions. We try to go through everything. Typically, and here's where I'm gonna ask for, I think it would be helpful for not just Berwick showing up at Berwick and North Berwick showing up at North Berwick.
I was just thinking the
Yeah,
same
I think
thing.
it's
good.
Some of us should go to
Yeah.
each.
I think it'd
Yes.
be really
I was just
good to
thinking the
show a
same thing.
representation from all 3 towns at each of those
Kind
select.
of like we did when we were doing presentations for the school.
Exactly,
Right, I mean,
exactly. I think that would be helpful, and it helps, I think it helps everybody feel like, you're unified and going forward together.
So we haven't set the dates.
We haven't set the dates and we will do that, I think, pretty soon.
They usually reach out to us with when their meetings are.
I also think it's super important about not only
us in the administration promoting this, getting people, reminding them that it's important that they vote if they want these things in the budget. It's really important that they vote. And even at your level, as you're talking to people, encouraging them to get out and vote, it's really, it's gonna be important, I think.
And this will be, I mean, I think that this is a very positive budget for our support staff, for our teaching staff. This is very supportive of them, so hopefully they will also feel the desire to get out there and vote and talk to their, their folks around them. Because we need to do this. Okay, no. So that will be another positive. And so as soon as the budget is approved by you, in terms of like what's moving forward to the public, we will start to share that with staff and let them know that positive things moving forward.
They'll have some extra money to buy ice packs to put on when the kid smacks. Oh, no, hopefully not, but.
Any smacks yet, Rebecca? Thank you. I know what she's referring to, but we
What was there, an article?
Yeah, she said that she was reading something about,
teachers getting. It is definitely a
Different world out there.
yeah.
Okay, so is that it?
I think
Anybody else
we're
have any last questions? Budget questions?
Alright, I will get to work, good.
Thank
So
you.
7:00 next week, right?
right, you're welcome.
And again,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks for your time.
Thank you.